Hello everybody and welcome once again to our Autobag Super GT Series preview show. I'm Jake Sanson, with me is Jamie Klein as always, and we have a special guest with us. Following the midway point of the season, we have Nobuharu Matsushita. He is with us for this fantastic preview show. Nobu, thank you so much for joining us.
Hello guys, how are you doing?
We're doing really well. It's great to have your company. We've had a fantastic following race of the season in Fuji, the halfway point of the championship. Nobu, from your side, the crew did a fantastic job and you guys were really in competition for the podium throughout. So you guys must be really positive.
Yeah, I mean, yes and no, to be honest. Because, for example, last race in the Fuji, it was rainy condition. And then car number 3, Michelin tire was, unbeatable, right? But untouchable. So I think if we drive, we could have a good fight. But it was rain and the mixed conditions, so we couldn't fight with them, to be honest. And then we had also the bad penalty, so yeah, could have been better. So yeah.
I mean, Jamie, we had a fantastic race in both GT500 and GT300 this time. I mean, the fans must have had an absolute field day as much as we did.
Yeah, absolutely. As Nobby mentioned there, number 3 Nissan in GT500. Once we had the rain at the end, they were just untouchable. But in GT300, we had a battle that kept us going until the last couple of laps with that amazing comeback charge by the Gainer Nissan there on slick tyres. Going with the gambles, one of the earliest cars to change over from wet tyres to slicks, and it really paid off for them. Beat the Subaru, which was staying out on wet tyres, at the start of the penultimate lap. So amazing charge by Riichiro Tomita in that Gainer Nissan, and just a brilliant race that kept us guessing all the way through. Just a shame in GT500, if it wasn't for the number 3 Nissan, we might have had a similarly exciting battle for the win.
I wanted to ask you a little bit about that actually, Nobu, because you were obviously right in the thick of the fight for GT500, but when there's a fight going on in GT300 as well, how much are you guys aware of that? Are you just keeping it to the back of your mind? Are you just focusing purely on the GT500 objective, or is there something to be learned from watching what the GT300 cars are doing as well?
To be honest, when we are racing inside the car, we don't care, to be honest. We cannot care about 300s because, we are fighting some GT500 car in front or rear. So, it's, how can I say, Super GT is really interesting because when you're racing against GT500, there's always 300, we need to overtake. So it's not only about, our pace, where to overtake. We always need to think about where to overtake. How can I say, I should not overtake 300 because if I overtake here, then, there's no space after this corner. So this kind of calculation is important for the race with Super GT, yeah.
And as a pure-blooded racing fan, Nobu, is it hard to take your eyes off GT300 a few days after the race? Do you like watching its back sometimes as well?
Yes, I do. Yeah. And then I wanted to understand what was happening. For example, last weekend, some car was on fire, But when I was driving, I didn't know, Some car was stopping there and, safety car, we need to focus my strategy. But after the race, I checked the video. Wow, it was like a big fire on the car. So, yeah, I'm surprised. Yeah,
it was indeed. We're going to talk a little bit about that as well. Obviously, let's talk about the Fuji race in detail. It was kind of a race of 3 halves, really, wasn't it, Jamie? The first half we had, the first third of the race, I should say, a very, very tight battle where the Nissans on Michelin tyres were trying to get themselves back into contention. And it sort of settled down right in time for our first race fire, which happened to the Hachiichi Supra, and that brought out the safety car and kind of paused us for a while.
Yeah, we had 2 GT300 cars on fire, which kind of split the race nicely into sort of equal sized chunks with as you mentioned, the number 244 Max Racing Supra caused the safety car, and then a much more serious fire for the Stia number 25 Hoppy car, which brought out the red flags because the marshals simply couldn't contain it quickly enough. So, unfortunate for that team. Of course, that car is not going to reappear for the rest of the season. It's pretty much a write-off. So, terrible for the Stewart team, which is one of the sort of privateer squads that's been a part of the series for many, many years. But yeah, that sort of set the tone for the strategy, really, because when the red flag came out, then the rain returned. Everybody changed from slicks to wet tyres under the red flags. And then I don't think, or only a small handful of GT500 runners braving it on slicks in the closing stages, just because those cars were a long way back already and they had to try something. But for the kind of main contenders, they stuck it out to the end on wet tires, we were sort of denied the strategic variation we had at round 2, just because as well in the opening stint of the race, everybody came in within a few laps of each other when the track dried out, and that's when they did their first stops. But actually, I want to take the opportunity to ask Nobu about the number 17 car, because am I right in thinking that you had a drive-through penalty in the early stages? Yeah. What was that for, by the way?
We didn't know.
We didn't know during the race, but we found out at the end of the race.
Yeah. So basically, I think 5 minutes before the start, we cannot touch the car, or we cannot do some setup changes in the car, no? The car has to be on the ground, and then the mechanic cannot touch the car. But apparently, my mechanic misunderstood about the schedule. So they saw that there's more 6 minutes or 7 minutes left. So that's why they touched the car. But actually, time was already, too late. So I didn't know, obviously. I was just sitting in the car inside, and then it suddenly starts to hear the Japanese anthem, national anthem. But mechanic was still touching the car. Oh, something strange, But okay, anyway, we start, and then after the 10 laps, 8 laps, something like that, I got a message from the team manager, and then we got a drive-through penalty, and then I started to understand immediately, because of that. Then immediately I was on the sector 3 already when I got the message, and then this lap I already into the box to get the penalty. So yeah, that was quick, and I think that's why TB couldn't catch our action. I mean, the pit train.
I've got to ask, has that mechanic got a watch coming for Christmas now? So when you need to keep an eye on it for next time.
Yeah, and it looks like not mechanic's mistake, but there's like a sheet in the team, the schedule sheet, the white paper actually. But that was a mistake. That was wrong. So somebody put the wrong number on the schedule. So whole schedule was delayed by 10 minutes, 5 minutes, I don't know, but that's why they made a mistake. So mechanics, there's no, how can I say, I feel sorry to them as well, It's not, team mistakes, but they're not their mistakes. So, but next time we will make sure to this kind of things will not happen again.
Yeah, the whole team has to roll together, obviously, so you all fix it internally as a squad. That's the only way to do it, isn't it? So, good to see. Let's talk about that closing stint, Jamie, because obviously when we had the red flag, everything reset because we had the mother of all rain showers that lasted a good 15 minutes, but it completely saturated the circuit and kind of turned it into a complete race reset to a certain extent.
Yeah, well, at that stage, we had 2 cars at the front of the field that didn't have enough fuel to get to the end. That was the Rookie Racing Toyota and the Sard Toyota. Both of them had to come in. I think the Sard car did try and hang on for as long as possible, desperately fuel saving, but it just wasn't enough. In the end, they were probably hoping for a safety car or maybe another red flag to try and avoid the stop. But it was, inevitable that they were not going to have the fuel because they just did such short stops in the first stint. And it was interesting, actually, to read Sard team boss Juichi Wakisaka always does a blog after every race, sort of detailing what happened, and he just admitted that the team didn't realise on lap 11 or 12 or whenever they came in the first time, they just didn't quite clock that. Oh, if we fill up, we can get to the end on one more stop. And it was only later they realised, that's what everybody else did, and we didn't, apart from the Rookie Racing car, which fell into the same trap, it seems. So once those 2 cars were out of the way, initially it was Giuliano Alesi in the 37 Tom's car that was kind of the net leader, but with Takaboshi in the number 3 Nissan breathing down his neck, and it was inevitable that on the Michelin tyres that Takaboshi-san was going to get the move done. So once he was clear, then he was unstoppable. And actually the second sort of most competitive car, interestingly, was the number 16 ARTA Mugen Honda, which gained a load of places unseen to us while we were focusing on the great GT300 battle with Hiroki Otsu on board. Unfortunately, that team got a penalty post-race for refueling and a tyre change at the same time, which of course is illegal in Super GT, which dropped them to third, promoting the Nakajima racing car of Takaya Izawa and Kakunoshin Ota, who we saw having a brilliant battle with the Kunimitsu Honda, which was also penalised for the same reason as the ARTA car. So that team got second, their first podium in 3 years, can you believe it, for the Dunlop Shod Nakajima squad.
So, yeah, it's kind of been a sort of a post-race shuffle. Those who only kept an eye on things post-flag will not have necessarily seen all of the shuffles and the changes. One thing it does do, of course, is it brings Sho Tsuboya and Ritamo Miyata up into fourth position. Now, in terms of the championship fight, that's quite significant. If we look at the standings, they're only 5 points back from Chiyo and Takaboshi in the NDDP racing car. You've got the Kunimitsu Honda of Yamamoto and Makino right there, only 22 points back. But then all the way back to Kazuya Oshima and Kenta Yamashita, and yourself, Nobuharu, and Kurasuke Koshi, your teammate, there's only 6 points from third down to seventh. That is a really exciting opportunity for you guys heading for Suzuka, not just because you guys are, there's 5 crews separated by 6 points for third position, but 22 points behind the leaders. That's very easily catchable. That's a win and a decent couple of results, and you're right back in the hunt for the title.
Yeah, I mean, for example, last year, I was fighting for the championship. We are fighting for the championship until the last round of Motegi, the gap was only 3 points, but, to catch the 20 point is kind of difficult. I mean, not impossible. It's always difficult, So we are not that optimistic at the moment, because last year we lost the championship title, we couldn't get it. So this year I want to have it desperately. So obviously it's only like a half of the season, still 4 races to go, so anything can happen. But yeah, as you said, Suzuka is very important for us because I think we are not that heavy, not that kind of right. So I mean mid edge. So number 100, 16, they are very close, no? The way in terms of the weight stuff. So I think they can be very competitive in qualify. We can be also. So it's gonna be a big fight, but very important to have good position for the race in the qualify, and for sure we need to have a podium or hopefully win. Yes.
We're very excited to see how it's going to go in the second half of the year. Let's talk a little bit about what's been happening in the news recently. Obviously, the 2024 calendar was released in the week, Jamie, and it's interesting to note that after the Super GT bosses decided that they wanted to try and expand a little bit to have a round or maybe 2 outside Japan as their, prime focus moving forward, pretty much unchanged calendar for 2024. It's clearly not going to happen just yet then.
Yeah, I know some people in the paddock were a little bit disappointed that after the kind of talk in the build-up to this season that they were aiming to get an overseas race back on the calendar. It's not happened for next year. GTA boss Masaki Bando did explain in his pre-race conference 2 issues: logistics, because the cost of shipping is still extremely high, and also just the finding a promoter that's willing to pay a race hosting fee of what they require. So it seems Sepang is the most likely candidate to join the calendar at some stage. Bando-san also mentioned a race in China, which we presume is Shanghai, which has never hosted a Super GT race before, so that would be a really interesting event to have. But one thing he also mentioned is that there will be a test at Sepang next January. So with 1 car in the GT500 class per manufacturer, the teams are desperate to have some proper warm weather testing in the winter because it's very cold in Japan in January and February. And running in such cold conditions just isn't very meaningful when we never have such low temperatures during the season. If you're running in, 5 degrees Celsius, you have so much downforce that you never have during the season itself. So it's not that useful. I mean, it's better than nothing, but it's the teams really want to have proper warm weather running. So that's why they're going back to Sepang. Hopefully that could be the first kind of staging post to having a race at that track in the future.
Well, we can talk about it from a fans and a commentary perspective. Why not ask Nobu from a driver's perspective? Nobu, obviously this is something that's quite close to your heart because it would be something that you would have to undertake as well. as a driver going to an overseas location. When you saw the calendar, were you particularly surprised or disappointed, or how do you come to the reaction that there's no change really for next year?
Yeah, to be honest, it kind of a bit of a disappointment because Suzuka, Fuji, all the same track every year. It's a bit I don't want to say boring, but we need some fresh track, and it's good for drivers, good for the team, also good for the Super GT fans, to see new track, to battling with a lot of cars. And then, Jeremy said that is exactly we know. We do the testing every time in the winter. It's so cold, I don't know, less than 10 degrees. Sometimes it's snowing, and then when you put, the setup for the winter setup, it's always fast. But the season is always it's quite hot, or it's more than 25 degrees. So the winter setup is not gonna work, So the testing is, I don't want to say it's meaningless, but it's kind of a bit useless. So we like to go to one place to do some testing, and then especially for the tires, for example, Bridgestone. I'm using Bridgestone at the moment, but for 3 years, more than 4 years. When is this COVID started? 20, right? So it's more than 3-4 years. We didn't do proper testing in a hot, warm condition. We couldn't do. So that's why I think same for everybody. To be honest, Michelin, Dunlop, Bridgestone, or everybody's the same situation. But we should do testing in one place, and then we tried new things, new compound, new, a structure with the tire, and then it's gonna be good for everybody, So I'm waiting for that to happen.
It's incredible to think that COVID was 3 years ago. Thanks for reminding us. It's kind of flown by now. We made it the other side. Speaking about testing, obviously the GT500 cars for 2024 are being prepped and repaired. It's going to be an interesting one from your side, Nobu, because of course it's all changed next year. The NSX will finally race its last at Motegi at the end of this year, and you'll be jumping into the Civic. First impressions, how are you finding things at the moment with the Civic?
I obviously I didn't drive. I just watched the some footage and the pictures. But I would say I prefer NSX for design wise, But we all care is about speed and the performance. So I don't know. I want to drive as soon as testing. How can I say? I think testing will be January or December, end of December. So I cannot wait for that. But I really want to win with the NSX at the moment because I focus for this season. So about next season, I will think about it after the race of the final race this season.
A proper racing driver's answer. I love it, Nobu. Jamie and I, we can talk about this perhaps with a little bit more foresight because we're always geared up for the future and we're always looking at these sort of things. There's been positive signs about the Civic, but I guess this also relates to the Nissan Z because it's obviously the second year for the Z, and we've seen how strong that is. When the Civic comes in, are we expecting a similar sort of surge forward for the Honda?
Well, potentially. It's obviously very early to say at this stage. I mean, the car ran pretty smoothly during the Okayama test. It was Naoki Yamamoto and Tomoki Nojiri who were entrusted with the first running of the car. The lap times were not far off from, I think Nissan was the quickest, but I think it was well within the margin of error. Of course, it is a test where they have to focus on aero runs and just kind of basic running and not really sort of exploring the limits just yet. And also it's racing at Okayama in the middle of the summer is not something that happens in the Super GT calendar. So even if they were pushing the limits, the lap times are still fairly meaningless because we'll never race at Okayama with 30 degrees Celsius unless the Earth really starts to heat up seriously in the next couple of years. But yeah, I was quite interested to see the Nissan Z, which had a slight change of look with the bodywork based on the Nismo Z, which is a kind of more sporty version of the road car that's already been, released on sale. I think next year that car goes on sale. So I had the chance to speak to Nissan boss Matsumura-san at Fuji, and he explained that they are essentially just doing comparisons with the new aero versus the old aero, still working out which is better. They tested it on Bridgestones, but they will test it on Michelin's next, interestingly, even though Michelin, as we know, is leaving the championship, but they want to get the back-to-back comparison data on the tyre that they're using mostly at the moment. So I think it's fair to assume that they'll probably adopt the new body kit, as they've already put in all the effort to prepare it. But I guess they just want to do a couple more tests before they don't have to make a final decision on it until close to the start of next season. But I'm looking forward to seeing how that progresses as well.
It'll get quite exciting very, very quickly as the development race continues to progress. I want to spend a little bit of time getting to know the real Nobuharu Matsushita at this point. We have the opportunity here, Nobu. So obviously a lot of people who will have watched your progress in Europe will know of your exploits in Formula 2 in your days when you were part of the Honda Junior program. Now, of course, you're part of the Honda Senior program within the world of sports cars. Just tell me, what has it been like going from Japanese racing to cross over to Europe in the Grand Prix paddock and then to come back to Japan again? It must have been quite a culture shock on both occasions.
Yeah, exactly. I was doing F3. It was, I think, 2014. I took the championship title and I got opportunity to go to GP2 that time. Yeah, it was 2015 with the ART top French team. I how can I say, the most impressive things, surprise things was the data analysis and also the engineering level in Europe was so high compared to Japanese racing. In Japan, we kind of, the engineer asked me, how is the balance, Nobu? And then, okay, it's on the state down one, blah, 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 that's it. Okay, so we should do like a soft and slow bar, whatever, But in Europe, it's not like this, How is the balance? Of course, I comment for the understeer, oversteer, whatever. Then they check the laptop and then deeply into the small details they care, and then it's crazy, Not only one people, 2-3 people watching the laptop for 2-3 hours after the free practice and before the qualify, It was amazing. Then I would say made a setup change with the reason, So that was the biggest difference in Japan and Europe. Then I was also doing a McLaren simulator, working with the McLaren because the Honda was that time with the McLaren, So that was also good because when I was doing a simulator, there's also Fernando Jenson sometimes came to the sim walk and I had opportunity to chat with them, about racing. So, it was really, how can I say, it's it's hard to explain. So sorry, my English, but Jenson, for example, Fernando didn't like simulation, Jenson also they didn't care too much, to be honest. But nowadays, young drivers are every day on the sim, like Max Verstappen, Lando Norris. So, but in that time in Japan, nobody was doing simulation work, nobody. I'm pretty sure nobody was doing that, and also including engineers. So that was also good opportunity for me to see what they are doing in a days without days in a work Monday to Friday before the race, So then, I did a few years in the F2 and then went back to the Super Formula. I think it was 2018. And it was the same, I don't want to say, same, but they are not doing so much analysis from the data. Just talking with your engineer, your drivers, and how's the car, and then improving, of course. But the improving landing curve speed is not that high compared to Europe because they know. In Europe, they know already. When I boxed in the car, and when they put the car, when they get the data for the car, they already know what is happening in the car. But in Japan, it's not like this. So that's the difference in Europe and Japanese. Then went back again in Europe in 2019-20, and then again come back to Japan for 21 until now. So I just wanna tell them, Japanese team that in Europe we are doing this and this and this. So of course I'm not the engineer. I don't remember everything, but I like to help them, for a good things from Europe, And of course we have a good things in Japan also. So we like to mix it up, and that would be good, I think.
What a few drivers that have gone from Europe to Japan have told me when I've spoken to them is that in Europe it's more business, whereas in Japan, it's more passion. I don't know if that's kind of where you're getting at to a certain degree. Does that sort of ring true for you, or is it not quite as simple as that?
I mean, yes. For GP2, F2, of course, you need a budget. You have to have a sponsor, or you have I don't know, but I don't feel that way, to be honest. I mean, of course, you need a budget to race, but engineers, drivers, everybody in the team is really passionate about racing. They want to win in Europe also, and in the same as in Japan. But I prefer European side because they are a bit more like dry. Dry means like okay, if we lose, so we need to find why we lose, that kind of thing. But in Japan, we lose, and they kind of start to find who was wrong, inside of the team. Try to find who was wrong, like our driver maybe, engineer maybe, But in Europe was not like that, a bit more like, okay, we lose, we need to focus for the next round. So what we can improve this from this weekend, this kind of way. So it's not business, to be honest. They're also passionate, and it's a bit more dry, to be honest. Yeah, dry and then clean, let's say. I prefer European way.
It's really interesting to kind of hear your take on it, because I think a lot of people, we have this perception of how one is and how the other is, and it's nice to get your feedback from the inside. Suzuka is going to be a very interesting one as we gear ourselves up for an interesting challenge for the midway point of the season. Obviously, we come to Suzuka, a race that we've already raced at once before. It's been an interesting challenge for the Toyota versus Nissan battle. It's Honda's home turf. This is the best chance Honda has had for quite a while now, I think, to come in and grab a victory. Not just because it's their back garden, Jamie, but also because look at where the progression has been in the last visit to Suzuka, the last time out in Fuji. There's definitely more of an impetus from Honda. We were so close to seeing their first win of the season in Fuji, so close. And I kind of feel now that there's going to be that extra resurgence of pace, that extra resurgence of tactics that's going to get them across the line.
Yeah, it would have been really interesting to see how the race would have played out at Fuji if it had been dry. I think the number 16 ARTA car would have been in with a really good chance. Although, that said, the Kondo Nissan also decided on pole might have had something to say about that as well. But certainly, when it rains, Michelin's unstoppable, and Nissan is the only one of the three manufacturers that can benefit from that at the moment. But yeah, heading to Suzuka, you have to say that obviously Honda has a lot of relatively light cars and competitive cars. Don't forget that this is the best race of the season for the Dunlop tyre, middle of the season when it's hot around Suzuka. Okay, they have got a bit more ballast now after second place for the Nakajima car at Fuji, but still they should be up there in qualifying, I would imagine. And you look at the other Hondas and how much ballast they have. Number 8 car still on 22 kilos, which is relatively little. The number 16 car's on 32 kilos, and I don't think we should discount Real Racing either, because they may have 42 kilos, but I seem to recall last year that the Real Racing pretty much should have won the race, except they had a problem with the refueling at the last stop, and I think they had about 40 kilos on board that time as well. So it's a track where the success ballast, of course, it doesn't help, but I don't think it's as damaging if you have the tyre selection spot on, if you have the pace. I think it's and of course it's a 450 kilometre race as well now, which does help recover from bad qualifying. So yeah, I think Honda's got a lot of chances, but yeah, the pressure is on because this is their last visit of the year to their home circuit, and all 5 Hondas are going to see this as a big opportunity and feel that they need to get themselves really in the thick of the title battle.
And let's be fair, Nobu, you must be coming into this weekend with a lot of positivity, a lot of confidence. Obviously, looking back to last year, you and Kudai came home second in both races at Suzuka last year. So you guys know the place incredibly well. You'll know what you can get out of the NSX. There was that little hiccup at the beginning of the year. I think maybe had the race gone the full distance, you guys probably wouldn't be talking about a ninth place finish from last time. So How confident are you guys heading to Suzuka, knowing that you got a lot of silverware from it last year? You obviously took the win at Autopolis last year as well, which is a similar style of circuit. So you guys must be thinking, big confidence. This is your chance to get yourself back into the hunt.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, last weekend from Fuji, we had a really great pace. Not only about qualify in the race as well. I had a fastest lap also in the dry condition, of course. So our setup is getting better, and then not only about Fuji, Suzuka as well. So, and obviously the fast cars are kind of heavy now at the moment, So I think NSX will be super fast in qualifying in Suzuka. Not only 17, I think 8, 6, 16, also 100 as well. So yeah, it's gonna be like a big fight between Hondas, in the qualifying. But to be honest, car number 17, we have a better pace in the race compared to the others. So we are also confident that we can do a good job in the race as well. Of course, qualify as well, but more into the race. So to be honest, I'm not worried about Suzuka. Yeah. This sounds like we have a confidence for sure. Yeah.
I love a fighting talk. It's a very good confidence. Jamie, we obviously think that the GT500 Honda crews are going to be very strong. What are the chances of Honda doing at Suzuka what Nissan did at Fuji? They managed to come home for the victory in both GT500 and 300. Do we think there's a shot that Honda might have an opportunity to do a double at Suzuka?
Not out of the question. I think realistically, you've got to look at Team Up Garage, which won the opening race at Okayama, was in a gambling mood at Fuji with 2 early trips to the pits for slick tyres that didn't really pay off in the end for them. So they're still on 20 points, 60 kilos, but I think that driver combination, Takashi Kobayashi and Shun Koide, is a very good one. And it is a car that goes well around the Suzuka with the high speed corners, so I wouldn't be surprised to see them in the mix. However, I think the red hot favourite has to be Good Smile Mercedes, because they're still extremely light, only 3 points on the board. Really threw away a great chance of a win with Nobuteru Taniguchi's really unfortunate error on his outlap on slicks, which of course handed to the initiative to the number 11 Gain and Nissan. Without that, I think Good Smile car could have quite easily won the race, and they won at this track last year as well. So I think considering all those factors, you've got to look at them as the favourites. But also, I want to give a quick shout out to Team Le Mans Audi. We know that Audi, the mid-engine car, goes very well around Suzuka. Podium finish last time for Roberto Merri and Yoshiaki Katayama. They'll have 45 kilos on board, but I do think they could be competitive despite that. And also, one more mention, we didn't see too much of the J-Lock Lamborghini, the new car, the number 88, running second early on, but kind of lost out in the late stages with the rush back to slick tyres. I think that car's also got a lot of potential, and I think they'll be up there. So I think for Up Garage to give Honda a double would be difficult, certainly not impossible, but I don't think they would be the favourites by any stretch. I think if Good Smile can have a smooth weekend, if they can start on pole again, then I think they'll be difficult to stop.
Could be very interesting to see how that all plays out. Nobu, a final word from you. Obviously, in last year, you were fighting for the championship in Super GT. You were a race winner both there and in Super Formula as well. You're still really starting to build upon your junior career and really starting to take authority now in your senior career. You must be thinking, as many drivers do at this stage, yes, obviously, you're cemented in with a manufacturer and with a brand, but any racing driver has got to be thinking about, some of those big races like your Le Mans 24 Hours, your Indy 500s. Yeah. As a racing driver personally, they've got to still be on your radar. How far along the road are those kind of opportunities for you? Is it something you still discuss, something you still try to bring up?
Yeah, of course. I mean, my target is to race in Europe or America, I mean, I love in Japan. I love Super GT, Super Formula as well. But how can I say? My dream was Formula One, And then to race in outside of Japan is really, how can I say? It's always new like new drivers, new trucks, new team crew, team members. So I like new things, always. So yeah, but to go abroad, you need to have some result in Japan to show. So I need to convince the manufacturer people that I'm the ones to go to the, for example, WEC, whatever, Le Mans, Indy. Yeah. So I think that still I have a chance to get that ticket, So, but to do so, I need to deliver my result in Super Formula and Super GT. So that's first step that I have to do. And then at the moment, Super GT is doing okay, to be honest. For race to go, we can do something big one, coming soon. So, but the Super Formula is only 3 races left. So yeah, there's not that much time, but also Super Formula, it's a really tight battle, like a small change makes everything. So yeah, it's not easy, but I'm quite positive at the moment that our race actually is the next weekend, so in the Motegi. So yeah, I'd like to do my best.
It'd be really exciting to see how that continues to progress. Jamie Klein, Nobuharu Matsushita, thank you so much for joining us on the show today. It's been really, really good to catch up with everything from Fuji and to preview Suzuka. For you guys watching at home, you've actually got double bubble this month for Japanese motor racing. You've got the next round of Super Formula next weekend, but then you've also got the 5th round of the Automax Super GT Series on the 26th and 27th of August, and that is live on motorsport.tv's premium service. Subscribe. It's a very affordable cost for the entirety of the year. You can watch every single thing that's happened as it happens. And of course, you can go back and watch the previous races as well and keep up to date with everything that's happened. In terms of the news bulletins, more will break and it'll all happen via Jamie Klein on motorsport.com. You can keep abreast with everything as it progresses. Thanks very much for watching, and we'll see you on the starting grid at the Automax Super GT Series Round 5 from Suzuka. I'm Jake Sanson. Sayonara.